Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the announcement from David Lammy at the UN and also from Downing Street that the UK intends to recognise the Palestinian state in September. Now, the fact that they're doing it and the fact that they're doing it today is of no surprise to me because I said this last week, which I'll come to. But the way they're doing it is actually very interesting. Let's see what you think. But first, for daily news and politics, please click the subscribe button to stay notified. So, last week, what I said was, ahead of Trump's meeting in Scotland with Starmer, he was coming for personal reasons, but Starmer, of course, was going to meet him. Starmer will want a few things from him. And what I said was, because particularly after France has said, we are going to recognise the Palestinian state this September. It's something that Macron had been talking to other European leaders about, really trying to go ahead with it. And there's two arguments. It's probably worth just going over what they are, particularly in Britain, but in other countries as well. On the one hand, and it's the one I said some months ago, I'm ready to now accept this one. The situation in Gaza is now so desperate that you're looking at the two-state solution, which has been recognised for decades as the only serious route to peace. And you say, well, just because it's the only route to peace doesn't mean it's happening. The Israeli government is increasingly saying that they're not going to countenance the two-state solution at all. And they're also saying quite openly there is zero difference between a 1-month-old Palestinian infant and a Hamas terrorist. And America is not even under Trump a voice of caution there. I mean, America's always sort of on Israel's side here, not really Palestine's side. But nonetheless, America had for quite many years agreed that the two-state solution was the path to peace, not so much under Trump. But so that's an argument I am in agreement with. There comes a point where countries now have to say, look, this moment, because that's the other argument, we're waiting, this is Britain's official position, we're waiting for the moment where the two-state solution can be just got over the line with a last-minute push, and that would be the push. It's always understood, broad agreement across politics in this country, right and left, Labour, Conservatives and other established parties, that there should be a two-state solution and that Britain should recognise the Palestinian state even before it technically exists. Like, recognising the Palestinian state doesn't make, in any practical sense, the Palestinian state magic into existence. For the Palestinian state to be real, it has to, first of all, of course, be in control of its own borders. But more than that, it has to be in control of its own economy and laws. The Palestinian government, there needs a proper basis for the Palestinian government to manage its own economy, which does not exist, not even just at the moment, just in general, even when it's not under siege, doesn't actually exist. So the argument is, if we recognise the state of Palestine early, then at some point in the future, if it would have provided a bit of impetus, it's gone, we've lost it. And doing it now, no, absolutely zero practical impact. So you've got these two arguments. But I suggested there, I agree with the idea that there comes a point where it might be completely too late, and you want to know that your country, particularly when it's the UK. I mean, we've got a bit of a history with Palestine going back over 100 years, which is more not help. I mean, it's not exactly helped the current situation. Let's put it that way. In fact, it's actually created partially the current situation. So, how do you tie these two things up? Now, what I said last week was, particularly when France says we're going to do it anyway, the UK government wants to do it as well. But because it's not going to have any practical impact, they don't want it to have a practical negative impact. How could the practical negative impact be? First of all, in terms of what practical effect we can have on Gaza, we can't put pressure on Netanyahu. He's openly critical of the UK government, has been for some time. But Trump can put pressure on him. And if we can talk to Trump without him treating us with a suspicion, we can maybe get Trump to lean on Netanyahu. And indeed, we saw that in the press conference. Trump is saying he doesn't buy Netanyahu's line that the starvation is faked. He says you can't fake that. There's the children are starving. He also said that America has provided a lot of food for aid for Gazans, and Netanyahu is blocking it, and Netanyahu needs to let in, he said, every ounce of food. Now, whether that translates into concrete action from Trump to force him to do so is another matter, but he's nonetheless said it and he's nonetheless called out the Israeli government. But also practical effects, of course, we need to keep Trump on side for various other reasons, for European unity and solidarity with Ukraine against Russia, and just frankly, in terms of trade between the UK and the USA as well. So you don't want to commit an act that has zero practical effect just for show, that has a very real effect that's very negative. So what do you do? And I said last week, Starmer talks to Trump in Scotland. So from my point of view, I know there's a lot of people protesting there. From my point of view, I was happy he was coming. Sorry, I was happy he was coming because it gets you that face-to-face discussion. And I said, what Starmer will want to do is talk to him privately and say to Trump, look, you are going to take your position. We know that you are not going to recognise the Palestinian state anytime soon. We get that. France are doing it anyway. Now, bear in mind, although I don't think Trump had, but some of Trump's team criticised France really quite strongly for that. So Starmer would want to say, it's no skin off your nose if France does it. It's no skin off your nose if we do it. It's not undermining you. You have your position. In Europe, we see things a bit differently and we have a different approach, right? And he could even told him, I don't know what he'll have told him in private, you know, a two-pronged approach. You have your approach, we have our approach. It's not undermining you. It's no skin off your nose, is it? And then I said, he'll need Trump to say that in the press conference. What happened yesterday? Trump said in the press conference that America has its position, but it makes no difference to Trump if other countries recognise Palestine. He says he's not going to do it, but he says no big deal if other countries do it, including the UK. Bang. So at that point, no surprise to me about this announcement today, particularly as I knew that Lammy was heading off to a meeting specifically about this. The announcement, no surprise to me. This is what surprised me. So I see an excerpt saying that the UK is going to recognise Palestine in September. Great. No surprise. Some people are calling for them to do it immediately. You don't do that. France has led on this. You don't. I mean, that just looks like you're trying to undercut France, right? I mean, that's just childish. You wait for at least some moments of maximum impact, at least where we're having a meeting specifically about the two-state solution, an international meeting. That's the ideal time to do it, alongside France, not trying to do it to jump the gun. But the way they're saying they're doing it is really very interesting. This is what caught me by surprise. So Starmer has said, well, specifically, Lammy has said, and Downing Street have released a statement saying they're going to recognise the Palestinian state this September unless Israel makes substantive, that's the words they've used, substantive moves towards a two-state solution. Now, we don't think this ploy will result in a change from the Israeli government in terms of policy. We don't expect the Israeli government to make any moves towards a two-state solution, substantive or otherwise. So that means essentially what's happening here is the UK, alongside France, is going to recognise the Palestinian state this September, joining some other European countries who've already done so quite recently. And that's all there is to it. But doing it in this way ties those two things together. How do you do it to create an impact? And how do you do it before it's too late? Because in theory, it could have an impact. In theory, we're saying to Israel, look, we are going to help you deliver peace in the only way that's possible, a two-state solution. We will hold off recognising the Palestinian state if you make moves towards it, and then we can do it in a more coordinated fashion with you. But if you don't want to do that, then we won't. And of course, the government have also massively called out Netanyahu's false equivalence, and called it such, false equivalence between Palestinians and Hamas. The government have reiterated the fact that their position on Hamas doesn't change, that Hamas must release all the hostages and cannot form the government of the Palestinian state. So Labour are not recognising Hamas as a viable government for Palestine. They're recognising a free and peaceful Palestine, which is a clear distinction. But I thought that was quite interesting. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe for further content. And until next time, I'll see you later.